Hey everybody, the following is an excerpt from the monthly Rahdo Roundup, and if you'd like to see the rest of the roundup, you can hit that eye up in the top right corner of the screen, or if you'd like to know more about the game, you can follow the link down in the show notes. And with that out of the way, let's talk about Castellans, formerly known as Castellans of Valeria. This is the latest big box game of Valeria. I'm using Tom Heath's Slicker Dip's wonderful run-through of it. Links for it down in the show notes, so you can get an idea of what it looks like. By the way, if you subscribe to my channel, but you don't subscribe to Tom's, you might want to rethink that, because he does a great job of doing run-throughs very, very similar to what I do. Although, man, he spends a lot of time zoomed in. Please zoom out, Tom, so we can see the board. There we go. I might even have to pause if you keep zooming in like that. Anyway, though, this is very interesting to me because it is an area control game. And often, area control games don't work very well for two players because you really need to have a third player thrown into the mix to make it more interesting. What's great about Castellans is I don't think I have ever seen an area control game that does two-player area control better than this. Because if you're playing at a 2 or 3 player game, there is a third automated player who slowly takes over territory as well. So I'm not only competing with you, but I'm competing with them. But then there is an extra variant in the rules that for a 2-player game, you can add another automated opponent. So it's like you're playing as a 2-player area control game, a 4-player game, and it's phenomenal. It works so well. And the interesting thing is, most area control games are just me about, putting my troops or my buildings, or whatever it is we're building out there, and just trying to make sure I have more than everybody else in the given region, so at the end of the game, or the end of the round, or whatever the structure is, I get the big reward for that region because I control it, because I have the majority, right? That happens here. But the thing is, you're not just putting one type of thing. You're not just putting soldiers, or towers, or whatever. You are putting manors, and lighthouses, and temples, and ships, and populace. All of these things will add to your control of a given region, but all of them have different cool special powers they do. And that's where the crux of the gameplay decisions come from. I need to make sure, because we're about to score these 2 regions, I got to get in those regions heavy. But how do I do it? Do I recruit more civilians and get more special powers and put the civilians in there? Do I build more manors? They're much more expensive, but they'll give me huge game-changing powers, not little tiny powers like the civilians. Do I put more ships there? They don't do much other than help my bid for dominance, but the interesting thing about ships is they're not tied down. Later on, when I'm done with that region, I could pay to move them to the next place I'm trying to score. So there's all kinds of different things, and so while we're trying to maintain our majorities, we're also trying to leverage all these different powers. And it's freaking brilliant. This has got to be, I think, one of the best Valeria games. It's a bit much for me to say it's the best Valeria game. My favorite of all the Valeria games is Shadow Kingsman Valeria. But I think, strictly speaking, this is maybe the best designed Valeria game to date. And then you might say, well, but then why is it coming at number 8? Because, as brilliant as it is, I've got 2 problems with it. The core gameplay, the action selection system is wonderful. It's dice drafting. Did I not mention that? I love dice drafting. It's a lot of fun in here because you're drafting the dice to harvest resources, and then if you use them in the right place, you get bonuses and all kinds of stuff. So there's a lot that goes into the dice management and manipulation, potentially, depending on what powers you've got. And then there's all the thought about the area control to try to score big in the different areas. But there's one thing the game is missing for me, and that is direction. This is the epitome of a sandbox game, which means for some people, they're going to say, what? Oh my gosh, yes, please sign me up. Because what I mean is, all those things I just talked about you can do, they're all equally great. They're all equally worthwhile. And this game does not give everybody, a unique player power or special secret objectives that they might have that they're trying to achieve. There's just only the game, and everything is equally valid. As the game evolves and you're trying to respond to what other players have done, you start to get some direction. But at the beginning of the game, it's wide open. You can do whatever, whenever you want, because it's a sandbox to play in. And I've talked about this over the years. That's just not for me and Jen. We need just a scooch, just a smidge. Just like, hey, as far as setup, draw 2 and keep 1 secret objective that I'm trying to do. In addition to everything else I just described, I'm also trying to do this one thing. And then instantly, I've got a goal. I've got a purpose. I've got meaning. Here, and again, this is for a lot of people, great. They have to make their own meaning and set their own goals. And that is a wonderful design. I'm saying it's maybe the best designed Valeria game of all time. Just not for me and Jen, because we both really don't respond well to sandbox games. It's why I prefer Agricola to Caverna. But if you like sandbox gameplay where you set your own agenda and everybody else is too, and then you respond and you pivot, you should check it out because it's so smartly done. I have one other complaint too. As brilliant as the gang at Daily Magic Games did a job of trying to make area control work for 2 by throwing in these extra dummy players, it's really disappointing they didn't do the same thing for the progress tracks. This has that same old Zulk in the Mayan calendar. Oh, in a 2-player game, progress tracks are largely meaningless because if you make it all the way to the top, you get the best score. And if I only ever move 1 step on that track, I get the second best score. And I just can't stand that. It always drives me nuts. It'd be so, I don't understand why they did the work to make the area control work with the dummy. All I had to do is say, hey, when you're putting out those dummy things to make the area control tighter and more interesting, put some dummy people to compete with on the track. So if I want to come in first or second, I got to beat the dummy. A simple thing like that would have really elevated the track gameplay also. But it's a minor thing. Again, by the way, both the things I just said, easily fixable with house rules. There is nothing stopping you from saying, hey, as part of setup, draw 3 villager cards and keep 1. And that'll give you a little special power that only you can use. It'll give you that direction. Hey, as part of setup in a 2-player game, put a 3rd player on each of the, I don't know, maybe at the 5 mark or the 7 mark, something like that, somewhere, so that you've got somebody else to compete with besides just your human opponent on the tracks, and then boom, this would have been my top 3 of the month. A couple of things like that, so elevated. But as it is, again, I'll die on that hill saying, the more I think about it, I think, yeah, this is the best Kingdoms of Valeria Kingdom game ever. Just unfortunately, doesn't work as well for me because there's just certain things that Jen and I want that other people don't need. So anyway, that was number 8 of the month, Castellans. Okay. And thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference, believe me. But with that out of the way, if you'd like to see some more, over on the left, you can find a playlist of a whole bunch more Rahdo Rapid reviews. Up in the top right, there's the latest thing that's been added to the channel. And in the bottom right, you've got something YouTube recommends. Okay, folks, thanks for watching.